Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good. Welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, the week ahead, all that fun stuff. Only Tuesday, so we're still pretty early on in the week, but before we jump on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the live trading morning prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that's inside there. If you need to read through that with a little bit more time, well, you can read it right there on the screen. I keep forgetting. That's part of my my muscle memory spiel right there. I gotta get out of that groove. Anyway, it's there for you. Oy. Let's see. If you aren't a member of SSFTG or a part of the YouTube family, check out the join button below the stream to gain access to our next private webinar. Before that takes place, get access to the SSFTG Discord chat. Not to mention all of the awesome things like the badges next to your YouTube name to show the support and all of the all that cool stuff. If you are trying to figure out what it is exactly that we are doing every day, look no further than the Day Trading Academy on SSFTG. Not including the live streams and YouTube tutorials and everything else that we've got going on, the Day Trading Academy has another 19 plus hours of material loaded, and that collection just keeps growing. Please keep in mind that the YouTube broadcast does have about a 3 to 10 second delay, depending on when you're logging in or where you're logging in from. So that is something to keep in mind. But if you want to level up to the VIP status, you can enjoy the exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed live analysis stream via Zoom direct meetings, as well as monthly VIP webinars, private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, all that kind of stuff. So whether you're new here or you're a veteran over on the VIP stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you here with me today, and look forward to rocking and rolling. So let's take a look at some news, take a look at some charts, see what's going on this morning, so that way we can be as ready as possible. Now that I've stumbled my way through that one. We've got the morning DP levels there. Don't forget to grab those. But aside from that, looking across the board here to see what's been going on. One of the big things that we were talking about in the Discord chat, obviously you can see on the right side there was a euro long with a continuation to the upside. Now at this point, it's continued far enough to the upside where I'm not really willing to let it come back anymore. So from here, I mean, realistically, it's got to keep going. That last gigantic bull bar was that was pretty tough. So I either really want to see it keep going up here or kind of run out of steam, you know what I mean? So I'm not necessarily interested in going to break even straight away because they have been playing that break even area. It wouldn't be a surprise at all to see them retest it. But this would be a potential continuation zone, and we're sitting right on top of a wedge top. I mean, this is a pretty big area. So just kind of keep that in mind with where we are right now in the euro. So for me, because of that, I'm going to ensure that the market doesn't pull back that far. I want it to stay above the wedge and keep going. So 18,410 in that sense. But looking at the news for today, there's not really anything going on. We do have the EIA short-term energy outlooks going on for crude. That's going to have a big impact on crude, but crude's been a mess for the last couple weeks anyway. Not a huge deal, really, to add a little bit more to that list. As we go into this morning's session, 10 o'clock JOLTS job openings for February forecasted at 6.995 million. Those are a little bit later. That's about it, though. So pretty calm and quiet. We do have the API weekly crude oil stocks coming out of 3.9 million is the previous. So we'll have kind of an idea as to what today's API numbers give us in terms of what to expect for tomorrow. But not really. I mean, with everything going on with crude, the inventories might not even be that relevant, honestly. We'll just kind of have to play it by ear, I guess. But throw that off to the side. Take a look at what's going on across the screen here. We've got the Nasdaq, which is coming off of the top of this just ridiculous channel. This is, I mean, it's a multi-tiered channel to the upside still. It's still grinding its way higher, but man, what a ludicrous looking channel this thing is. It really needs a bit more structure, and a lot of that is mainly just due to the fact that it hasn't really pulled back. It just keeps screaming higher day after day after day. 3 days now, back to back. Just straight up, no pullbacks. So with that amount of continuation to the upside, I mean, it's fairly obvious that bulls are interested. It was just a matter of, can they actually pull back more than, like halfway to an L1. They've got to we need a little bit more than what they've been giving up. It's looking good. It's still incredibly strong, obviously. Just need a bit more follow through. We're on the S&P. We're running out of time on this wedge, but with this overshot on the top, now it's kind of grinding its way back down, and it seems like the buyers are having a little bit of a tough time. It would make a lot more sense to see a two-legged correction back to the L1. That would be back to the previous swing high. That would be back to the breakout point. That's where a lot of interest starts stepping up, and that's going to be the major zone. And just as a side note, S&P is above 4,000, right? I mean, geez, oh Pete, this thing just doesn't stop going. We haven't really had much of a pullback. And even this one, it's not really a pullback as much as it just kind of went sideways. We haven't had a pullback yet, even back here. It was mostly just sideways, never really pulled back. So still waiting, you know, the L1 is down here and buyers will still be waiting for the L1. But honestly, if we can get a deeper one, like an L2 pullback back to 4,000, then you start getting a lot more people interested. 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Switching gears over to gold. The gold move overall, I mean, very nice wedge moving its way to the upside. Obviously, a huge undertow going on that's been going on for quite a while. We just haven't seen it turn lower. Buyers are continuing to try to go further up. We haven't even really had much of a pullback here, but at least they're coming back to L1s. Nice little dip there, I guess. Realistically, a lot of buyers are going to be looking for a two-legged correction back down to a larger L2 zone of support, something along those lines. If we look at this from the bottom all the way up in terms of volume, that gives us a pretty obvious indication of what's going on here. We had a slight accumulation phase on the way down, and well, once it found its bottom down here and rallied back up, it was, well, they were taking profit, right? We saw a little bit of a drop in volume. Hit up into these highs, into these 710s to 1720s, gigantic block of volume, started shifting things a little bit. Now maybe accumulation. Usually accumulation happens in threes. It's something to remember, right? So you've only got 1, 2, maybe these two little peaks, kind of questionable. Once it starts breaking higher and forming this next one, though, now it's very obvious. We very obviously have an accumulation phase going on here, but we haven't seen the sellers turn down yet. So that's important to note because the POC is shifted high. That means that they've averaged in, and they're not going to be averaging in again if it breaks higher. So if the bulls are able to step up to the plate and break it probably above these 43s, 44s, there's not going to be a whole lot to stop them until we start hitting some other previous major levels of resistance. And that doesn't happen until 1747, swing high at 49, and then all the way up at 56. So if they start breaking back above these 42s, 43s, that opens the door for a pretty decent amount of space to the upside to see if this thing wants to go. Obviously, the other thing that stands out is the fact that there's been no real pullback on this gigantic V-ish bottom. You could see a higher low pullback. Nice little dip down there, L3, L4, L5, something like that. That would be very nice. Either way, the undertow at the top is telling us to be a little bit careful. We're probably going to see a pullback sooner than later. On crude oil, just a wedge. I mean, let's be real here. Crude oil is too much going on for me to really care too much about it. We had that big slide off back down through 58, bounced right back up off the wedge lows. Ugh, I don't know. There's just nothing I really want to do on crude right now. With all the meetings and everything else going on, I'll let it do whatever it wants to do, and I'll come back later. Over on the euro, good continuation to the upside, but we're at the top of the megaphone, so I'm not interested. If it wants to start pulling back, no thanks. If it wants to look for a little more continuation, that is also fine. I'll be looking for that continuation to the upside. But this was the major target area. You can see the first target zone, once we started getting some bouncing off of that L1 area, was that lower high. I certainly was not going to fight through all of that. It was a good thing we didn't. Now we're breaking above, so we got to see him hold it. You could even potentially look at that as an area to widen your stop out. If you really wanted to try to hold on to this for as long as possible, that would be like a 2-candle trail way down here at 18,275. For me personally, I really don't want to give all that back. We're at a megaphone top. It doesn't make any sense. If it's going to pull back, this is the spot that it's going to pull back, you know? So, I mean, if it does take me out and then goes back up, fine, so be it, whatever. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'm not willing to let it pull back too far. Let's see if we can get... I want to give it as good of a chance as I can. I'll go on the underside of the top of the L1. That's as much as I'm willing to give it. It's got to hold from there. So, we'll see. If it wants to keep going, cool. If not, well, whatever. Over on Bitcoin, came back up to the 59,000 mark, and man, 59K... 59 to 60, obviously 60,000 is a gigantic psychological level. We've been talking about that for ages. Bitcoin moves in 20s. It moved to 20, got stuck there, faded off. Well, actually it missed 20, did the 1999.99 special, and then collapsed. And then we went up to 40, broke through 40, went up to 60. We missed 60 a little bit, finally poked it. Now we're finding resistance at 60 again. If it's going to break through 60, chances are it's going to go to 80, right? That would be the next assumption. If it's going to break down and pull back, where is it probably going to pull back to? Probably back to around the 40 area. But if we look at it in a bigger picture, this is only a 15-minute chart. The bigger picture obviously will tell a different story, but we can see where we are just from this perspective. If the bulls are going to take it, they're going to need to show up to the party and get this thing cranking, because where's the follow through? This thing is just hitting a brick wall, and they really need to get through this if they're going to start pushing. Buyers will obviously be buying on the dip, and they have been for quite a while. 57,000-ish, 57 to 56 seems kind of like the barrier, but if that breaks down, then there's nothing until 54.5. Maybe even a little bit lower, 54. and then it starts slide down territory where we might as well just gun down to 50. So, you know, it's a really sensitive area here if the bulls can't get things going on Bitcoin specifically. Now, Ethereum, slightly different scenario. Ethereum's actually still looking pretty strong, offering up some pretty nice opportunities to the upside, along with another one that we'll talk about. We talked about that in the YouTube members area as well as Discord. But Ethereum catching a very nice bounce off of the L2 for a continuation. Here again, just like Bitcoin, just in a shallower sense, I suppose, we're running into a bit of resistance here at these previous swings, 21, 25-ish. If the bulls are going to take it, they've got to break through these 2130s, get up through the 40s, really put on some pressure here, because if they hit 50 and then it falls flat on its face again, that's going to be a big problem. Nobody's going to want to hang around because we're probably going to see that bigger pullback. So this is, again, it's sensitive territory. They've got to get this thing going. And then the other one that we were talking about, that was Uni. Good old Uni continuing back to the upside with a continuation move. Uniswap breaking back above the 30s, trying to continue back up. This is that continuation move. And honestly, you know, I in terms of nearer term objectives, yeah, obviously the swing high, that's going to be the first zone of interest around 3250. We've got a VVP there. We'll probably fill in some of that volume. And there's obviously resistance at 3470s. But if we start breaking above that, there's not really much else. And then things start going pretty crazy. There hasn't really been much of a pullback, so it does feel like it's forcing traders to buy high, which means it's either got to go now or they're just going to start jumping ship. But it's looking pretty strong to the upside so far in Uniswap. All right. Swing over here. And let's start off back on the top. So first off, we were talking yesterday on how, we had not hit these areas during an RTH session, and we finally have that test of an RTH session. We've got it during that point. So job done, objective completed, and now it's screaming above it. So there's obviously... there's no questioning what the intent is here. Bulls are obviously involved and looking for more movement to the upside. But remember, these buyers have finally been given a chance to get to break even. If this market starts sliding back, they're not going to likely hold on too much longer below the 350s for fear that this was nothing more than a break-even spike, and now we're just going to go collapsing all the way back down again. So that is something to keep in mind. The buyers need to see this keep going in order to kind of prop this strength to the upside. Looking good, though. If we zoom in a little bit closer to the 60-minute, we can see super sideways, very sideways price action. There's not a whole lot going on there. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, give me 2 seconds here. All right. There we go. So Nasdaq, I mean, it's predominantly sideways. We really haven't had much of a pullback. So if we can get a two-legged correction back, at least, something, then maybe buyers will be interested. From the Asian session to the downside, we've deviated lower. The one deviation move right before the European session, which continued that trend to the downside. The European session trying to break higher, which now we're seeing the sessions kind of at odds with one another. So far, the European session has only been able to break out about a half distance above the top, and now it's starting to kind of fade back through. If we look at the overall movement from the beginning of today only, we started off with a bear cycle to the downside. That was an L3, L1, led into an L2, but failed at the lows. Reverse back up. And that was off of an L5. So an L5 into an L4. Now we broke up. That first one was actually an L1 pullback. The next one's an L2. So the way that it's sort of climbing around the ladder, the only thing that really hasn't been hit would be an L3. So I guess that would be the next zone of interest, would be around an L3. I mean, the 15-minute chart's not going to really tell us too much more, just because we already know the POC's at the top. But if we look at what's going on so far today, I mean, it hasn't really moved a whole lot. It just appears as though there's a lot of orders coming in around the 540s. Buyers probably buying in, assuming that that's going to be the lows. Ten minutes until the open. And here we wait. Not a whole lot going on yet. 2 seconds here. Okay, there we go. Not really a whole lot going on so far. The S&P is also pretty calm and quiet going into the open here. Jeez. This thing just looks like a barbed wire fence right now. Well, we'll just have to give it a little more time. Zone of interest at the moment for the Nasdaq is going to be around the L3. The euro is still just hanging out, not doing a thing. So the euro is still just kind of continuing to the upside, not really any changes going on there. Everything else is pretty calm and quiet. Crude oil looks like it's picking up a bit of speed. Maybe. Maybe I'm just being hopeful. See if the bulls want to continue back up off of this L2. There's a lot of support coming in. If we look at just the pullback, we can see it's fairly obvious accumulation. So buyers are buying into this dip, and their average is hovering around the 583 area. Hey, Bram, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. So we'll see if they have what it takes to kick this thing back to the upside. So far, I remain a little bit unimpressed. I would rather see an L3. If we look at just that breakout leg, there's some serious voids. There's like no volume that took place at 68. There's nothing that happened at 72. I mean, it really could use a backfill. Doesn't have to, but it would help it a lot. Excuse me. Man, gold better hope they turn this thing down soon. Starting a funded account today. Nice. What are your views on that? As far as trading on a funded account, there are a few, in my opinion, prerequisites that come with being able to migrate to a funded account, which, by the way, as far as trading on a live versus any other environment, I mean, you're going to learn the fastest on a live environment, 1,000 hands down. You're just going to learn the emotional side of things faster. But the problem is, at least for futures, even with micros, I mean, yeah, 50 cents a tick on the Nasdaq, that goes, whoa, really fast, I mean, even at 50 cents a tick, you can be down a couple $100 really quick. So from a psychological standpoint, some people just don't have that capability, and it just doesn't make sense to go funded too early. And it, like for futures, you might end up staying on simulated for a while. And if that's the case, then I would say at least the minimum would be, first off, at least the past month, your trader's math is solid. You have to make sure that your trader's math is solid, because if it's not, then you're just going to blow up anyway. Don't even waste the time. You know, not to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that. I'm a realist. What can I say? This isn't easy. But I mean, when it comes to it, honestly, if your trading math isn't in check, then there's still more work to be done. Whether it's a funded account or a sim account or whatever. If you're at the point where your math is consistent and you're staying in a positive territory, even in negative weeks or a down week or whatever, your math is still generally good over the course of, 2 or 3 months, then I think there's no reason why, you wouldn't be able to. Obviously, it's a personal choice, but there will be a big difference if you're going from sim to live, because if you've been practicing on sim and then you go to live, you might have the technical side of things down, but then the psychological side of things kicks you in the teeth. So Top Step 30K, nice. Great work. I was gonna say, someone else was saying that they had just gotten it as well. So in that case, being that it's a Top Step account and it's a funded account, you've already proven yourself. You know what I mean? So they do the same concept. You have to prove that you're able to do it first. So just take it slow. If today is your first day, it's going to be a psychologically different. Just don't beat yourself up. Take it slow. Go way smaller than you might be used to, potentially, just so that you're, in a safe space. But you'll do great. Good job. Congrats, by the way, if I didn't say it already. Oh, yeah, 100%. Totally agree. It's easy enough to trade when just in general, let alone adding way more money than you should anyway. Ay, ay, ay. Recipe for disaster. 1 minute until the open. There it is. Right back to the European session high. I know it's kind of hard to see with the drawing on it. Let me swap this to the one that I'm actually interested in, L3. There we go. On this move down, I'm curious to see what this drive down looks like. We had the initial impulse, secondary impulse puts it right at L3. We're going into the open, so time of day is definitely funky. Tried to grab a little pop down there, but couldn't get the fill. See if they can give me one more jerk down. We've got 5 seconds till the open. Nice little back flush into the L3. Bottom of the L3, though. Starting to immediately jerk through it. Now, remember, we're dealing with the open, so volatility is obviously expected. So I'm just kind of mitigating risk while this thing's jerking around here. We're at the European session highs. The next zone of interest, if it's not going to hold here, is going to be a little bit lower towards the 4850s. So I would like to see it pop back above these 64s. There we go. See if they can go a little further now. They're getting stuck at the top of the L3, and that's where the earlier traders who are trying to buy in are going to be exiting at break even. Yeah, I'm out. No thanks. I couldn't get the job done. So it's breaking through the L3, which for buyers is still okay, because remember, most reversals take place at an L4, L5. They're still waiting down here. But if this starts to churn higher, I'm not going to turn into a buyer again unless we see a dip back down into the 48.75s. That would be an entry defense zone of interest on that reversal. Or we see a higher low, higher high, actual proof. So we'll see where this wants to go. The euro is continuing to the upside. I'm going to lock the stop in now again with a 15-minute 2 candle and just let it go from there. Keep churning higher, euro. Entry defense point of interest for scalpers on the Nasdaq is going to be around the 48s, 49s. If it can overflush down to it, that might even be a little bit better. Or do something. Come on, Nasdaq. Ooh, nice big blow off. Give me one good spike down into that blue line there. Okay. Well, not quite. Try again. That really strong bull bar may spark the move to the upside, so an inside pullback back to 58.25 will get buyers involved. This is an entry defense bounce, but it's ahead of break-evens. So all of the traders who've got their stops at break-even down here, who bought this previous bull bar right there, down at the bottom there, their stops would be at break-even. They haven't been taken out. That's important to note. That's important information, because if they do get taken out and it immediately snaps back up, then chances are that was a stop absorption and we're going to go running back to the highs. Let's double check volume. Starting, they haven't shifted the POC yet. We're coming into the open, obviously, but there's a lot of volume building down here. Can they get a move down to that blue line? Or are they going to hold a higher low? POC is shifting. We're starting to gain a little bit more proof now that this is slightly on the accumulation side of things. Price is going down, volume is increasing. There's no proof from the bulls really yet, but they're trying. Let's shift the opacity down just a little bit. 20? 10. There we go. So from a volume shift perspective, buyers will be buying off 561 with stops below the low. The assumption is that the accumulation has taken place, although it hasn't happened in 3 nodes, which is definitely preferable. It's happening in a zone of interest. So there's a compensating factor here. Buyers will be buying into this 561. This is longer term stuff, though. This is like for the day, looking for the end of the day. So options, calls, that kind of stuff. That's what's going to be taking place in this area. I would still love to see one more snap down to that blue line, but if we see support in these 561s, don't be surprised to see it perk right back up. Big bear bar right into it. What are they going to do? Ooh. Uh-oh. Oh, man, if the bulls are going to get a higher low here, that's nasty. Oh, disgusting bull bar. It's gone. Nope. Yep, there it goes. All right, zone of interest down here is an entry defense, looking for an entry defense pop for initial scalpers. They got the initial pop for scalpers, that's for sure. Jeez, OP. Buyers will be looking for an accumulation bounce back up. I missed that secondary portion. Again, man. Now they're starting to break back above. I'll jump out. I got too many misfills on that one. I tried hitting the bid, missed it. Tried hitting the bid, missed it. Finally got another fill. It was at a different price than I wanted. I'm going to scratch that one. It's not playing ball the way that I want it to. It's in the right place, but the price action's too skippy for it to keep me in. S&P is attempting to get back to the downside, and we do have the first 5-minute bar now in. So if we're looking at the first 5-minute bar on the S&P and on the Nasdaq, we'll get those in a second. 62, hey, don't move. 62 quarter is the POC on the S&P. The S&P barely has any candles. On the Nasdaq, oh man, what a beautiful string of candles this thing's got going on right now. Lordy, lordy. Your POC, 74 quarter. If they can get a heavily extended move up into that 74 quarter for a retest of volume, that would be nuts for sellers to try to push back on. They just shifted the POC down. Do you see how small of a time span it was here and the POC shifted lower? I think a lot of buyers are jumping ship here. If this goes back up, that'll be their saving grace, but they've got to crack back above 74 quarter. That's the line in the sand right now. Buyers have defended their entry point, but they got a little bit trappy down here. If they break above that 74 quarter, I mean, they definitely whip me out. I'm not. But okay, back above the 560s in the volume. Oh man, S&P is a bull engulfing candle now? Okay, done. Yep. Seriously. Lordy. Nice reversal off the lows. S&P trying to close this thing off as a bull engulfing. Still has 2 minutes left. Look at that hourly dip below that previous bull bar. Right now, it looks like the buyers gobbled that thing up like it's going out of style. We're seeing them fight over the POC. We're seeing the accumulation phasing. They broke underneath POC. Now they're back above it. They're going to want to maintain this volume in the 560s. As long as they can stay above this, they're okay. Remember, the good point for a reversal is an L4 or an L5. It held an L5 perfectly. So they're okay. It was messy, but it worked. No change in the euro as of yet. I mean, the only change right now would be, I mean, you could potentially, I guess, move it up a little bit, but there's still 6 minutes left on the candle, so a lot can happen in 6 minutes. More continuation to the upside. The bull engulfing buyers would have been at 63.50. 64.50 would have been their targets. 65.50 would be the 2-point sellers, and likely those sellers aren't necessarily anticipating actually getting a fill. So I like that area to begin shorts back down, assuming that this is still more of a range-bound mentality that will look to fade back. Big, nasty bull bar. 62 quarter would be the volume pullback. Down to 60 quarter on the other side. Coming into the objective. 65. It's one tick away. I'm going to back off by a point that micro double top would lead me to believe that they might try to push through volume just a little bit towards the bottom side of that. S&P is a little more interesting, a bit lower down 61 quarter. I still don't mind 65.50, but we might see it pop through this double top to 66. Tested the entry point, but I did not get a fill. So if we see price go through 64.50, then unfortunately for me, that means that I missed the trade, and there's nothing that I can do about that. Man, that's frustrating. All right, well, they went back through. I didn't get a fill. Oh, my God. There we go. Now that we've got a bit more continuation to the upside, if it pulls back to volume, it wouldn't bother me as much. Now that we've got a bit more proof. I would still rather fill more on the downswing, though. See what this thing wants to do. No real change on the euro. The euro is still in the same situation. Haven't changed. I mean, it's almost as if nothing's happened for the past 4 minutes. It's just kind of hovering. So I'm just going to let it do its thing until we at least get the close of this candle before I change or modify or do anything different. Nasdaq bulls attempting to come in a little bit stronger this time around. Trying to break above that 74 quarter volume node. So far, not doing so well. There's a metric ton of resistance up here. If we can get a quick little dip down into the 60 quarters, buyers will be looking to scalp buy down there on those dips. But it's got to be in the low 60s for the Nasdaq. Since everything is so slow, we're going to have to go to get some scalps going or something here. Sellers potentially stuck underneath that previous bull bar, so if they're allowed a chance to get back out at around the 67.50s, we'll likely see some scalp entries there. Still looking for more continuation to the upside at the moment. So far, they're holding off the L5 perfectly at the lows. If we start breaking above settlement, that's pretty much game over for the shorts. As long as it does it with some conviction. Like a weak break isn't going to prove anything. But look at this 15-minute candle. I mean, geez, oh Pete. That thing's nuts. I don't know anybody who'd want to fight against that. Strong bull bar back to the upside. Breakout buyers will look for continuation above the 80s. S&P just not giving the pullback. S&P moving a little bit further up now, 63 quarter, 62 quarter, 61 quarter, that backfill to volume now below the previous bull bar. There will also be scalp buyers, honestly, looking at this is a really nice continuation to the upside. It's got some mild candle gapping, so it wouldn't be a surprise if it wants to backfill some of that. It might not even necessarily pull all the way back to 63 quarter. It makes a bit more sense to look at 65 quarter. As far as the euro, now that we've got a close of that move, there's not really much of a change. POC has shifted. Let's bump this forward, though. 13,568. So if the Nasdaq can get a quick little volume dip back into the upper 60s now, or low 70s, we'll see buyers come back in again. Come on, S&P, pull back just a little. I know a pullback is asking a lot lately, but jeez. Starting to get that dip back. You think so? Put NYSE on the end. That would make sense. Nice little dip down into the support zone. See if you can get a continuation back to the upside. First objective for scalpers now off with that pop higher. See if they can keep this thing going. What kind of candles are they putting in right now? Jeez. There we go. Made it there in the end, I guess. See if buyers come in below that previous bull bar. They're back down to a quick slide to break even, but they didn't quite hit it. Nice little push back into volume at 68. I only got one extra one down there on that move. I tried to get a couple extras. There we go. So I want to see the volume supported off of 568 to push the market back up in an attempt to support and redefend this pullback. It's a nice two-legged correction back. Trying to get another move higher would make a lot of sense. This thing is so jerky. Let me see here. Can I change the title? Yeah. Like that? How's that? First objective area off on this pop. Nice continuation. Jeez, right back down again. This is the entry defense, but the entry defense is off of a doji, so it's by no means the most impressive thing in the world. Almost rather see if they can get a dive a little bit closer to the 5850s. Because if they're going to trap a low, what better low to trap than underneath the 55s? I mean, that's idealistic. That's perfect. S&P a little bit higher, 65.75, 64.75, 375. You're getting some crazy candles in here. Got about 8.5 minutes until the top of the hour. Okay. Ay, 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 ay. A little micro double bottom down there, I suppose. Bull's trying to take it back up again. 1 second. All right, Nasdaq trying to get a bit more continuation. Secondary objective area, which I missed the fill on. Just didn't fill any of them. Was going to be back around the settlement area, but I didn't get any of them. See if they want to keep going back to the upside and try to crack through it this time, I guess. There we go. Nice continuation to the upside. Take the icing on the cake, thank you. Last little bit here, we'll let this thing go. Very nice. Keep on trucking. Let's get this stop in here, trailing along with price. I'm not willing to give this back. But I also don't want to necessarily suffocate it. Little micro double top there. Market's not quite sure what it wants to do yet. Can it break above the highs? Does it fail? Which way does it want to go? They're trying to follow through with a little bit more juice. Can they get it? Yes, they can. Very nice. Keep on going, Nasdaq. Don't pull back. Hey, that's not that. No, well, I mean, okay. I mean, much of a say in that, huh? Okay. Very nice continuation of the upside. The euro hasn't even broken above that top bull bar, which is obviously a bit nerve-wracking. All right. And we'll wait again. S&P, man, what a bummer. Missed me on all of them. They did trigger above the highs, so if for whatever reason buyers bought at 72.25, they'll be buying the inside pullback. But I mean, honestly, 71.50, 70.50, I'd rather buy like a small pullback from even a little bit deeper, 69.50. Oh, wait. I think I know what you were talking about, HLS. I think I just had a massive brain fart. I think you meant put the learn to trade in the front. Disregard. Not enough caffeine in the world to wake me up from from the god-awful sleep that I got last night. Probably like that, huh? That makes a bit more sense. Market just kind of hanging out. S&P waiting for the pullback. Crude oil continuing to the upside for now. Gold also driving to the upside, now reaching out to the positive 1 DP to the upside. Euro continuing its ascent to the upside here. Not really much has changed, honestly. Got about a minute until the end of the candle. There we go. That should have the title changed. I agree. I think it makes more sense that way. All right. Nasdaq bulls, they're trying to get this thing to go back to the upside. It is not pulling back. We do have more continuation on the euro, so that is going to continue to the upside. I'm not interested in seeing this turn back down anymore. And in fact, I'm not interested in seeing this go bearish at all. They've got to stay up here. So we'll keep the euro drive going. S&P, I was hoping for a pullback. 10 o'clock. Top of the hour. We've got a doji on the S&P 5-minute, which proves 0. Buyers will be looking to buy underneath the lows of that. And it's not normal that I will go for underneath the lows on the S&P, because chances are I won't get filled. But at least that way it puts our last one on top of the settlement at 68. So I think in this case it's a bit more favorable. Bitcoin and Ethereum churning down a little bit. Gold breaking above that volume node. So this is that breakaway point where they're starting to get away here. If they're going to crack higher, this is the area that's going to get away from traders up until we start getting into the, the 47s to 50s. So we're breaking away. Bulls continuing to the upside. Jeez. So it did end up giving us that continuation higher, albeit messy. It's an L5 reversal off of the lows. We've got to break above this high. If we start getting above the 606s, then it proves it. They haven't done it yet. And here we sit. Okay. Nice continuation. Bulls still driving to the upside. We do have proof now. They've broken above those 606s, although, I mean, it would have been preferable for them to really break it with some conviction. That last move might not have been enough. Unfortunately, there's not really much to do when the market just goes in a straight direction, but it's we just keep going along with it, I guess. That does give us a reversal off of the L5 on the lows. So this continuation breakout, usually an L5 is going to pull back to an L2. So it wouldn't be a surprise to see a bit further down in like the 83s. So that at the moment is going to be the zone of interest. S&P shifts up 71 half, 70 half, 69 half. Bitcoin, quick little flush, and Ethereum, quick little flush through the lows. S&P, is it gonna finally pull back just enough? $71.5. It's poking it. It's poking it. There we go. 72.50 will be the objective back to the upside. It's fine, S&P. We're used to waiting. It's all good. I think Bitcoin buyers looking to buy the low of the flash dip from yesterday. That could definitely be the possibility. I mean, if they're trying to buy bargain bin prices, it's a fairly obvious defined zone, right? So it would make sense. I hate weird math like that. Some of these cryptocurrencies that come out, like Gala, Gala, it's obviously of interest. Any gaming platform on crypto is interesting, but $1 equals 40.27. They need 368,704 to buy a node, divided by 40.27, I guess. So it's about, factoring everything else, we'll just say 10 grand to buy a node. Okay. I don't know why I can't just find a Gala to USD converter a little bit easier, but S&P target fills. Finally. So I need a little bit more of a pullback here. Starting to get that dip back into L2. Immediate response out of L2, which is a good sign. Sand is a comer. Yeah. That's just sandbox, isn't it? That's part of the sandbox. I don't have much experience with that one personally. See if they can get back down to that 74 quarter volume node on the Nasdaq. They're starting to flush to the bottom of L2. Oh man, Bitcoin and Ethereum are getting clubbed right now. Bitcoin and Ethereum getting the axe. Sheesh. Getting that blood going in the streets, huh? All right, now we're getting a little bit more proof. Well, blood in the streets relatively. I mean, it's short-term blood, that's for sure. Just because, I mean, look at the move down, right? A lot of buyers, if they're looking to do anything, they're going to be buying below the lows. They're going to be trying to buy on value. Previous stuck shorts, they have a chance to get out of break even now on this dip. So buyers will be accumulating this dive. Looking for a reversal move back up. Try it again. Nasdaq bulls do have that confirmation off of the L2. The retest rebounce is going to be the area of interest. Too strong of a bear bar, though, is going to be a problem. Well, I mean, that helps. Anytime we have a pullback that's dipping on to any zone of interest, if I'm looking for an area to be a buyer in terms of like a real like let's actually dive into this more than just like, oh, you know, throw a little on here and then let it go type scalping stuff. I'm looking for value pullbacks. So I mean, if I want to be a value buyer and I'm an aggressive continuation trend buyer, then realistically the pullbacks so far have been 4.15%, 4.84%, 4.15%. Anything below, I mean, this tells you right there, anything at like 5 or lower. And preferably, if you want the best one, double this number, and that's your kind of magic number. So if we can find like an 8 or 9% pullback, that's where it's going to be a lot more beneficial. This next one was 7. So, you know, I mean, you can see buyers accumulated into it like it was going out of style, and it formed into a higher low. Wedge breakout pullback. I mean, this is all common stuff. You'd expect to see all of this. But the buyers need to maintain it a little bit further up now. If they're going to hold on to this move, if you're looking at it from the bottom up, they finally reversed through the highs over here. That first pullback was an L1, and it barely succeeded. So the fact that it barely succeeded can sometimes mean instead of getting the next pullback as an L1, you get an L2, or sometimes they drive further into the 3. So a deeper pullback still. Now we know that the value pullback is 7, double that. If you want even better, go for 14. Get that value one way or another. Euro moves up a little bit further. 18,255. Nasdaq slides back down into the bottom of L2. Now we're starting to show a faster time frame undertow as well on the Nasdaq down here. So buyers are definitely trying to get the continuation move. Little inside pullback to the top of L2 would be beneficial. Getting a bit later in the morning now. Nice, another doji on the S&P. Great success. Perfect. Come on, Nasdaq. Just a little lower into those like 82s, 83s. That's a really heavy bear bar. I don't like buying those giant bear bars like that. If it was earlier in the day and the aggression pedal was, you know, further down to the floor, then sure, but... Now, if we can get a dip down underneath that most recent little low, back down to like 82.25, that would be pretty nice. Unless they plot a giant bear bar again. Yep. Well, now I need to see them slide a little further, like 78.25. But that twin reversal on the top, ugh. What a mess. I think we might just let the euro trail on and call it a day. Not really any changes. 18,525 is where that's at. Look at that bear bar. I mean, jeez. It's the final stretch, Nasdaq. Come on. Nice secondary bull bar back up. A little bit more proof. That's the potential higher low. Ugh. All right. I'm just going to let the euro do its thing. Let's do final call for questions. We'll wrap it up. Call it a day. Not really interested in putting any more risk on the table. This is just a mess. I mean, if the Nasdaq can get one nice overflush down into that blue box, that would be the zone of interest. Another strong bull bar back to the upside will get buyers re-involved. Their stops would be underneath that bull attempt, though. So it's either go or fail. Now, the line in the sand is getting finer and finer. And there it goes. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any of the questions coming in. Not seeing anything else going on, so we'll just call it there. The euro, I'm just going to keep trailing until it takes it out. The Nasdaq is in a zone where buyers are definitely trying. If they can get a continuation back to the upside, then we'll probably stay uptrend for the rest of the day. At least that would be the idea. But 13,568. Oh, from RTH. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like, where are you getting that number? Yeah, RTH. All right. Well, that's going to do it. I'm not seeing anything else coming in. Oh, why don't you use TPO charts? TPO charts are fine in and of themselves. I just prefer order flow, the indicator that's built into Ninja, more than the charts itself. It just, for me personally, going volume where I want to see volume only, rather than just everywhere. For me, I can build more of a psychological story off of. You know what I mean? If I see it everywhere, it's overwhelming for my eyes. I don't even know where to look. But if I'm building the story and I'm drawing the volume along with it, which you could do with, you just have to kind of move the chart along with it. This is just a preference thing more than anything else. There's nothing wrong with either one. It's just the one is, it's a little too much for me, for my eyes. No such dip on the Nasdaq either. One of the, yeah, exactly. One of the big things that I try to push for as one of my big go-tos is always trying to keep it simple, which I know, just looking at the layout, obviously easier said than done. It's even with moving averages and a few extra things, it can get overwhelming very quickly, but I try to keep it as simple as possible, because I do find that if there's too much, I'll analysis paralysis myself into a hole. So I think that's all the questions now, so that's going to do it. As per the usual, if I miss any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com. I'll get those covered for you. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the day, rest up, and we will see you all tomorrow morning, all right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.